Hi, my name is Benedict. In this video, we're looking at the concept of building depth into our mixes. It's really important. There's a lot of talk about wide, but virtually no talk about depth. Let's have a bit of a walk through, and then we'll come back and show you how this works. Now this first one is just all the instruments put on top of each other. No mixing, no anything. The second one, we've taken two of the instruments and panned them out hard. So the horns are on one side, the strings are on the other, that's it. Yes, it sort of sounds better, because we've got movement. The sections, the two instruments work off each other, so you've got movement. But we've still got this really flat forward mix. If you've got speakers and you're sitting in front of them where you should, somewhere in the middle, then it probably feels very forward, but at the same time really quite flat. Now this is using one of those programs that I thought, I wonder what this guy's got here, where you can move the ball around in a 3D space inside the plugin, and it makes the decisions for you as to how that should change the sound. In solo, sounds very clever. Mono. There's some strange artifacting that comes in with this, which, to be honest, is to be expected because he's playing around with what's called psychoacoustics. So he's doing EQ changes, level changes, and I'm guessing balancing some delays. So we've got some spectral shifts in here as well. Yes, they happen in a real room, but I'm not saying anything about his plugin. This is not about the plugin at all, so hence I'm not going to name it. In the sense of, if this is a technical idea to show what happens, brilliant. The plugin does a surprisingly nice job of it. Does it make a better mix? No, I don't believe so. You can make your own decision, but I don't believe so. We do, however, now have some depth. We've got not only some left and right, which is nice, but we don't need to do that. But we've got more depth because we've got the sense that some things are in front of each other. The drum is back, the strings are behind, the horn is in the middle, the bass is just slightly forward of the drums, and our lead line is front and center. Yes, it's done all those things, which here, everything's just all on top of each other. We get the illusion of a better mix because we've separated some things out, but everything's still on top. There is now front to back depth. Then I thought, okay, I do this all the time myself using delay lines. So here I've got exactly the same stuff, copied it across, replaced that pan plugin with the echo, and we get this. I have pulled back in the horns. Maybe I can push them a little bit further out. I'm funny about hard panning, and so I may have pulled them back in a little bit more than I should have. So let's push them back out again. That's probably a better... This is this plugin that says it's going to handle it all for me. That's nothing but panning and nothing at all. There is a little bit of reverb, so I'm actually going to pull that out and we'll just walk through the four of them. No mixing, everything just on top. just some panning. Psychoacoustic emulator. And using an echo on each instance to control how I want to put that in the room. And back with a reverb. Now, I can probably foresee some people going, oh, but the number 2 is best because everything's loudest. I get that if we think that mixes are just little slices of time. We listen to something for 4 seconds, and that's one of the problems of showing mixes based on an 8-bar loop or whatever this is, and people writing and mixing 8-bar loops. But the thing is, over time, we need more depth. Otherwise, this very flat thing has no character. It sounds arresting enough now, but it's not arresting when it never moves and changes. Whereas here, there is move and change. Yes, we do ask more of the listener, but I think any listener who is unwilling to give that much is not a fan of music. And if you're chasing them, fair enough, but they're unwinnable, completely unwinnable. So in terms of mixing, I strongly say, A, don't just hard pan things. It's a poor solution. It's not that panning doesn't have value. Panning has high value, and occasionally hard panning is kind of cool. This has given a little bit of a stronger definition to the horn and string parts and how they interact with each other. Okay, cool. But we haven't achieved any depth. We've still just got this papery thing, and it's over wide, if anything. Using things that say, I'm going to do this mixing thing for you because, oh, it's hard, so I'll make it easy for you by doing this thing for you, it actually makes it sound weird. Again, I think the plugin's very clever as a sense of, oh, okay, we can move things around the room as a proof of concept in that. Very, very cool. In terms of what it does with a mix, I think it sounds weird and canned. And then in learning to mix and position, we've still got some of that forwardness that I want, but I've given delays to give a sense of space. Now, one of the differences is that panning program, I believe, probably puts in delay to literally make whatever has been moved back in the room slightly late. Maybe engineers do that. It's not a thing I've ever heard of. Good on you if you do and your mixes sound brilliant, or the music sounds brilliant. I'm not interested in mixes, to be very, very blunt here. I'm interested in music. If the stories you tell in music sound brilliant, good on you for doing it. But my understanding is it's largely through adding echoes which give a sense of pushing things back and giving greater depth. So we've got things that have more depth and things that have less depth, therefore they are forward, which is what I've done here. So we go through each instrument and there's a really pretty short delay. I'm even using quite a lot of ducking so that as these kick drums come in, they push that reverb back, therefore they come forward. Whether that should be quite so dramatic, I don't know, but you make decisions when you're mixing, and that's important. That's how it should be. And that gives us a sense of some depth and some space. I also EQ'd because the pan room device was doing some EQ, so I said, okay, now, all right, maybe I cheated. I gave a lot more definition to the drums by doing the old, let's just get rid of the gluggy bit. But I've rolled off a fair amount of the tops there, and it gives us a sense of immediacy in our drums that we want, plus a sense of space and place. If we turn off that reverb, it'll be a little bit more obvious. Now that is designed to feed this room. because I was trained that you don't just put a reverb on and set and forget. Yes, it'll help a bit. It gives you a little bit of depth, but it doesn't give you any real control over your depth. That you use your delays, which feed that reverb, to create this much greater sense of depth. So you can actually use less reverb, if that's what you want to do, and get a richer sound all round. So you get more immediacy and more depth, which is a good thing. But in this case, I've used a very short time to pull us into a reverb type space and a fairly heavy mix, but the ducking means that it pulls that out as things are playing. The bass, there's no compression on anything here. Again, pretty short time, but a little less in the mix, a lot less on the feedback. So it actually has our bass player a little in front of that drum kit, which not only is the way it works in the real world, because it's rare that the bass player is standing level or behind the drum kit, is normally standing just in front, and that helps give presence, and that the drums are pushing the bass. So I kept the levels in such a way and the reverb in such a way, or the delay in such a way here, as to try to achieve a lot of what I'm doing when I'm using that bus compressor to pull these two together. So it's a case of that point where it's like, yeah, the drums are behind that bass, pushing it like this. Cool. So that adds extra depth there. Our horns. I've gone for an actual echo time. And a little bit of echo. And the idea is that that fills out our room a bit, and it also moves over to the other side where this sound is not. I'm always using some sort of modulation here to keep things moving around, and also controlling the tone of our echo. And I hope that what you hear or feel there is that when that echo is off, the brass sort of just sits at the front, like everything does when nothing is put into a depth space. But once we get that echo on it, that we've got our drum, our bass just in front of it being propelled as a unit, and then we've got this brass sitting just in front of it. We've got it off to the side, which separates it, but there's still a sense of where it sits in space. And then we've got this string. Forward when there's nothing happening. I always saw this sitting behind everything, so I didn't do the panning till later. So much longer time. Decent amount of feedback and everything, no ducking. And because I want this to seem brighter, the brass wants to seem MIDI, body-ish. This one wants to seem a little bit brighter, so we want the tone to lift a little bit. So the pair of them do work together as panned out. Hear how that stops working. We can tell which is the dominant, as in the brass is dominant over the strings, but the strings create a nice counterpoint to that horn. And then, of course, our lead. It's actually got the longest echo on it, I think, of the lot, but quite a small balance. So I'm actually using that echo to come from right in the back of the room. So it takes its time to come back, but it helps tie all the instruments together while still keeping this very far forward. So you might think, oh, but you haven't really moved it anywhere. No, I want that to stay forward, but I also want it to relate to the back of the room, which is that we can hear this echo come back. So when we have our whole mix together, sounds like it's sticky tape to the front. Now it feels like it's interacting and got depth, even though it's clearly in front. Again, everything got its EQ. But fair in this case because that panning your ping pong ball around the room used tone as part of its moving around kind of thing. I think we've got a better mix. We do lose a little volume with the ping pong ball VST, not unexpected at all, not a drama. We lose a bit more volume with this process, but again, that's not a drama. When mixing, it's not about how to make the highest level. It's about how to make the nicest balance to tell the best story. If you lose a few dB, who cares, especially in digital, because you just add like 4,000 dB and bring it back up to where you need it to be. So I made sure that we were keeping our levels pretty even so that when we do this, it's kind of the same. Everything on top of each other, just hard panning. Now the real mix. Obviously, I think the real mix is better. The ping pong ball in a room is interesting, but it creates some kookiness, some phasey, some spectral shifty sort of stuff, which I'm not in control of, so I don't like it. It's one of those things that you might learn something from by moving the ping pong ball around and going, oh, okay. But the problem is you won't learn the things you really need to do, which is this using the echoes to position things front to back in the mix. Winning. So while it may seem a little bit of a fractured one, this was just me going, well, okay, what happens? Here's this interesting thing I've tried. It's clever. Am I going to get better mixes? Can I better it myself? Will I better it myself? And it's not just because it's my mix, but I think it's better because it fits what I was trained and what I want to hear on a record. Don't fall for the idea of plugins that are going to do it for you. They can't. All they're going to do is make strange decisions or make the same decision over and over again, which, well, that's not what a mix engineer is designed to do. I was actually talking to somebody the other night. I was at a show and was talking to somebody who has hits, like actual hits, you know, been number one and what have you, or at the top of certain charts. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to identify them and have other people get upset because they feel like I'm having a go at them. I don't know any of the people. This person expressed frustration with producers. That's the name that they used. They spent quite a bit of money on them. I don't know what sort of money, but they felt like they spent money and they didn't feel like they necessarily got value in return because they felt that these people called themselves producers, spent their time talking about gear, and then this person could tell, and they weren't super experienced in the technical side of things, and nor did they need to be because their job is to write songs and sing them. But they felt like what was happening was formula rather than finding the magic in their songs. And I'll be honest. I actually, when I was first introduced to this person by somebody, and I was like, "Oh, okay, let's go and have a look at their stuff." And I found some of their singles on YouTube and played them, and sort of it's like, "Oh, okay. I wonder who mixed that." Some were okay. Some were just kind of like, so don't fall for this idea of using things that say they'll do it for you, or for engineers who have no real depth of experience and think that if they just apply formulas, it's going to get you there. You can hear the difference here of a formula thing that isn't solving our problem. Formula thing that isn't solving our problem, even though the VST itself is clever as a proof of concept. And then a mix that's clearly a mix. So I hope you've got some value from this. It's not about it's not about this is right, this is wrong. It's just about being able to say, okay, here's this at this stage, at that approach or the other approach. Obviously, I prefer things when they're done by hand and by ear, rather than being done by either a formula, this is what you do, or being done by what we might call a formula machine, here I'll do it for you kind of thing. If you have any questions, or most importantly, if you want to hire me, pop on down below. A like's nice, but you can either speak to me here if you've got broader questions, otherwise follow the link, read up about me, and fill in my form. You have a great day.